Hello, this is Investment Trends brought to you courtesy of the Zambia Development Agency, ZDA and ZNBC. On the backdrop of the National Trade Policy and Export Strategy launched last year, whose main objective was to turn Zambia into a net exporter and improve competitiveness, the Zambia Development Agency, ZDA, and the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, in partnership with the OneLife Communication and Events Company, recently hosted the first ever virtual import and export conference exhibition, IMPEX 2020. Today we have the ZDA Acting Director General, Mr. Mkula Makasa, who will shed more light on the just ended conference. Sir, it's good to have you in the studio.
Thank you, Mr.
I'd like to find out, how is ZDA doing this festive period?
Very promising.
Very promising.
Yeah.
Great. What I like about you is the fact that every time you come here, you just ignite a lot of hope and life. and I appreciate that this is what we're going to get right now.
Certainly.
Of course. Now, just shed more light on the just ended Import and Export Conference exhibition, IMPEX 2020.
Well, it was the first ever virtual import and export conference and exhibition ever hosted. It was the inaugural one. And so over 500 importers and exporters, policymakers, academia, cooperating partners, trade financing institutions converged virtually on Lusaka. And it was big business discussions going on, exploring policy levers which could accelerate trade within the region and globally.
Well just some color, just help us understand the objectives of the IMPEX 2020.
Well, the objective was first and foremost to interrogate business pathways through imports and exports among importers and exporters, and also secondly to identify policy options that could steer trade and investment opportunities in the country, in the region and globally, and also to hold some high-level discussions among government to business, government to governments, and multilateral institutions and bilateral institutions with governments and the private sector associations. So, so the gist of all these business interactions and interventions was to make sure that they could contribute to growth of business opportunities domestically, regionally, and globally.
Well, the IMPEX 2020 was, of course, targeted at covering the whole of Africa countries, and of course, let's look at the countries that managed to be part of this conference.
We had nearly all the neighboring countries, our 8 neighboring countries, including South Africa. There was Kenya, Nigeria, even as far as Egypt. And then beyond Africa, you're looking at the EU had a very strong participation and presence. The Germans were there, the British were there, the Swiss were there, the Danes, the French, even the Portuguese, And then across the Atlantic, the Americas, the Americans were there, the Canadians were there, Brazil was there. And then on the other hand, we also had participation from Asia, China. We also had Russia, although it's part of Europe and also part of Asia. And then Japan as well participated.
Can you take us into the conversation that was, which were centered around this conference? What were you people just discussing about when we look at trade in pertain to Africa?
First and foremost, we're looking at how to enhance e-commerce. As you may be aware, we've got COVID, and it has disrupted a lot of trade activities. So trading had to migrate into digital. And so that was a big discussion point. How can we expand? How can we replicate the existing trade options through e-commerce? Secondly, there was also another big discussion about how to improve trade financing, because trade financing lubricates trade. And so we had to have some big discussions around identifying and exploring innovative trade financing measures. The third, but not the least, had also a discussion how to increase participation of women and youth in, in trade and investment through e-commerce.
Of course. Let's look at the opportunities. What were the low-hanging fruits? I like this line because this is where all entrepreneurs want to jump in, the low-hanging fruits coming as a result of this conference.
Well, there were some, innovative, forward-thinking, ambitious business enterprises that want to venture into exports that participated. The opportunities largely were exploring, market pathways into the region, riding on regional economic integration. There were, some exporters that are into products such as beverages, even water, bottled water, other, even agri-processed products, which are being, taken into the regional markets such as Congo, Angola. And there was also discussions of exporting into China like honey. So these were some of the low-hanging fruits. But on the other hand, there was also an opportunity for some of the very exporters who are into manufacturing and processing of various goods that are considering importing some of the inputs and even accessories which they use in their manufacturing processes. So there was an opportunity to facilitate access to affordable quality inputs and accessories and raw materials for their factories and business enterprises.
And that, of course, translates into a huge markup on our manufacturing establishment. Recently, the president, of course, was just discussing the same with the Egyptian counterparts, that there's need for collaborative action so that we can grow the manufacturing. How is that looking from your end as ZDA?
Well, the thing is, there's a lot of partnerships going on right now. Most countries do realize that no man is an island, and that includes us as well as a country. So we're busy looking for smart partnerships, which we can use to link our business enterprises in Zambia so that they can grow their businesses. In fact, one of our biggest preoccupations as an agency, we've re-engineered our export strategy. We now call it the N8+1, meaning we are focusing on targeting our neighboring countries, plus South Africa. But we're also looking beyond that. I mean, you're right, the Egyptians were here this week. We had some very interesting discussions, and we'll be having another follow-up trade and investment business conference with Egypt. It's a bilateral, to see how we can spur exports out of Zambia into Egypt, and then the other way around as well. So we are busy working round the clock, polishing up our local business enterprises and making sure that their potential is made possible, so that they can score all these penalties we're creating for them, so that they cross the finishing line.
Of course, let's look at having discussed the opportunities and, of course, large bilateral, and, of course, we now want to look at the benefits to the Zambian entrepreneur. Is there some deals that were clinched as a result of this conference, or it's too early to to talk about the deals that may have come on the fore as a result of this conference?
Yeah, very promising, actually. No deal has yet been concluded, because the conference itself and the exhibition was held over 2 days. No egg gets hatched in 2 days. But what is happening right now, in partnership with our line ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, and of course ourselves, the agency, we are hand-holding all the over 300 Zambian business enterprises that participated, and some of them exhibited. We are hand-holding them and working with them in through the negotiations, and to make sure that the deals that are being negotiated are concluded and secured. And also, we won't leave it at that, but we'll also facilitate the consummation of the exports themselves. If sometimes they will need financing, sometimes they will need the processes, the procedures, and so forth, just to ease the pathway for all these business enterprises. Because as you may be aware, Hezron, I think the President and even our Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry have made it very clear that the economic turnaround of our country will hinge on how much we steer exports. And so the IMPEX was very fundamental in contributing to the structural transformation of our economy, and also aligning our industrialization and diversification into the regional trade architecture. That's very, very critical.
When you talk about trade, and of course you zero in on the fact that Zambia needs to export more for it to balance, more especially on our forex. We are hard hit at the moment, but of course with such conference being held and hosted by Zambia, you get hopeful that something is being done. But how is the structure of exports? How are you helping the Zambian entrepreneur to export outside?
Well, first and foremost, we've got a number of interventions, strategic interventions that we've designed as an institution, supported by our ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, and also in partnership with institutions such as the International Trade Center, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, the International Labour Organization. We're also working very closely with the Development Bank of Zambia. We're also in discussions with Prospero. We're also working very closely with the Zambia Agribusiness Trade Project. We're also working with Accelerated Growth for SMEs, which is under Finland. So all these partners and institutions are helping us contribute towards capacity building of our business enterprises, making sure that they're export ready. But even after they're export ready, we also facilitate access to trade financing, which lubricates trade. We're also working, like I mentioned, very closely with DBZ to provide the trade guarantees in order to enable them access the trade financing. So these are some of, and then the other thing that we're also doing, we also help out with the product development, because trade is about the quality of the product. If you've got a quality product, the potential will be made possible.
Of course.
So those are the interventions that we are implementing to make sure that potential is made possible for our exporters.
I like how you've yes, it came right out of your conscience. Potential made possible, and that's a beautiful line. And of course that's the idea. What's the tagline? Potential made possible. And I hope these sinks into the Zambian entrepreneur, that your sole purpose of existence at ZDA is to make their potential made possible. I like that. Now let's look at expectations of such events. Are we going to have anything coming up next year as we model our entrepreneurs? Are we having more training coming on the fall?
Yeah, in fact, the inaugural Import and Export Conference and Exhibition was a very good learning curve for us. In fact, what we are thinking already ahead, we would like this to be an annual event, first and foremost. And then secondly, we would like to make sure that we scale up. This time we're targeted 300, but we got 500. So moving forward, next year, we would like to target 1,000. Why? Because we believe that scale is very fundamental right now for our economy. If we can scale up everything that we are doing, it means we will profoundly grow our economy, particularly the export sector. The turnaround, the economic turnaround, like the President stated in his speech to Parliament, and even the Minister of Finance in the budget speech for the 2021 budget, they both underscored the significance of the export sector in re-engineering the economy. And so ZDA is actually the epicenter. It's actually right now the theater of dreams of making sure that that potential for exports is made possible. So my job, and for my team and management and staff and our partners, is to make sure that we create penalties. And the private sector has to score those penalties. And those penalties will only be scored once their capacity is enhanced, so that the potential is made possible.
That's beautiful to say. But let's look at individual groupings of of these entrepreneur clusters that we talk about,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about the visit that the Egyptians made to Zambia, they're looking at one sector which is very cardinal, and if Zambians are all embracing, but do we have the right attitude as Zambian entrepreneurs? You work with the entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Do you think we have the right attitude to embrace such collaborations, that the bilateral ones like the Egyptian one and the government of Zambia is coming into?
Yeah, certainly. You know, I always say that, you know, in this country, there's enormous potential. There are some business enterprises, actually, that have made it and have even gone into the region and are exporting. And a lot of them, not a lot of them, but a sizable number have actually lurched into the export markets. But that's not enough. We actually need more. Because, you know, a lot of them have really dug in deep into the domestic market. But, you know, we can only gain so much on the domestic market. Our growth is so much hinging on how much we go out there into the region and export. In fact, sooner or later, we need to be talking of exporting business enterprises outside Zambia to go and set up in the Congo, in Angola, Rwanda, Burundi, Mozambique, Malawi, Botswana, Namibia, even South Africa. Trade Kings has gone into South Africa.
But the question here is that, do we have enough policy backing for our entrepreneurs to stretch that much?
Well, if Trade Kings can go there, on which policy lever did they use to get into Zimbabwe, to get into South Africa? They used the very same existing policies. But I think what we now need to be investing in is to build resilience, to kind of foster ambition, you know, to foster ambition. You know, like, look, I always try to use football as an analogy. We've now got some young Zambians who are playing, I think, in Austria for some club there, Red Bull.
Red Bull, that's Mwepo and Patson
Daka.
Yes.
I think a few weeks ago, I saw Patson score 2 beautiful goals that mesmerized the Liverpool manager. What's his name? Jürgen Klopper.
Oh, I'm a musician, sorry. Yeah.
Jürgen Klopper. The guy was mesmerized.
Yeah, Klopper, yes.
And you know, and this is a young guy, a young Zambian at a very high level, scoring 2 beautiful goals, mesmerizing the European champions, Liverpool. And then, so I'm saying, hey, look, if Patson can do it at that global stage, every Zambian can do it.
We have to just arrive to the occasion.
His potential has been made possible in a foreign country. So every Zambian can make it. We just have to trust, of course, in the boss up there, the Lord. If we trust in the Lord, He will open the doors, the gates for us, and we'll succeed as a country. And so I'm very optimistic that we can do it as a country, and we will do it. Not that we can do it, we will do it. We've got no choice, actually.
But what are some of the weaknesses, maybe? Probably it's not the right time to talk about weaknesses as we try to emphasize more on the strengths, but what are some of the, you know, just the drawbacks to ensuring that we achieve this vision that you have as ZDA, to make sure that the SMEs, they're out there, they realize that you exist, for them to know that you are there to back them up. What are some of the frustrations that you find in ensuring that they arrive to the party?
It's not just the MSMEs, but even you know, large enterprises as well. A number of them have struggled to get into, to break into foreign markets. But here's the thing: one of the biggest constraints is the mindset. Why the mindset? It's, you know, the skills. Business is about, you know, having the right set of skills, you know, the entrepreneurship, you know, which will help you to maneuver your way on the marketplace. And once you've got the right set of skills, they will help you to navigate your pathway and to become resilient and to become innovative. Another challenge that we've had, which I must admit, is access to technology. Technology is very fundamental. But now, through ZDA, the National Technology Business Center, and all these government business development programs such as Market Connect, Productive Alliances under the Zambia Agribusiness Trade Project, which is under the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry. You've got the Enhanced Smallholder Agribusiness Promotion Program, which is under the Ministry of Agriculture. You've got the Enhanced Smallholder Livestock Improvement Program, which is under the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. You've also got the Aquaculture program, which is under the Ministry of Fisheries and Livestock. You've got the Climate Resilience program, which is under the Ministry of Planning. So all these programs, when you aggregate them, they're more than enough to steer and spur our entrepreneurs or business enterprises. But the challenge that is there is most of our people, they perish due to what? Lack of knowledge. But where is the knowledge? The knowledge is at ZDA, it's at CEC, it's at ZABS, it's at all these programs that I'm talking about. So what I would like to challenge each and every ambitious entrepreneur out there, please don't relent. Come to ZDA. Let's have a discussion. It's not, it's not insurmountable. Your challenges are not insurmountable, particularly if you trust in Jesus. He will always help you find your way. So I'm just challenging everyone out there to come to ZDA. We'll sit down and reason. Look, if you go to the Copper Belt today, Hezron, I challenge you, you will struggle to find lemons. Even in the markets. Probably the only shop where you'll find lemons is in ShopRite because they import them from South Africa. But locally produced lemons are very scarce. They're in short supply. Why? Because there's a huge demand in the Congo. Just Katanga province alone has a population of 15 million, which is very close to our own population in Zambia. So just one province in Congo is sucking up all the lemons on the Copper Belt and even nearby provinces. But what does that tell me? The opportunities are there. The potential is there to produce. So we just have to make sure that that potential is made possible. And if you want to make your potential made possible, come to ZDA.
Quickly just give us your closing remarks. It's been very inspiring. Potential made possible.
Well, first and foremost, the Zambia Development Agency is expressing its profound gratitude to the government, the president, for supporting this program. But we would also like to thank our line ministry, the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, the Minister, Honorable Christopher Bwadia-Yaluma, and his Permanent Secretary, Mr. Mushuma Mlenga, for wholeheartedly, with unwavering support, steering this program right from the start to the end. And we are also thanking our partners, OneLife Communication, who worked so hard in making sure that this program worked. And then we also had some sponsors. Without them, this program wouldn't have taken off. Zambia Agribusiness Trade Project, the Market Connect component in particular. We also received support from ZCCZ. We also received support from SECZ. There was also support from APSA, from Stanbic. And so, it was, it was excellent. And then the staff, the management and staff of ZDA, they were very, very supportive. They worked very hard. And so we are very grateful even for ZNBC for allowing us to come here to discuss and share the outcomes of this extremely important conference.
Well, sir, thank you so very much. It was great having you in the studio to shed more light on the conference, IMPEX conference. Well, that's what we had for you. This has been Investment Train. See you and God bless you.